Oh, hi. You caught me in the middle of one of my deep breathing exercises. You see, after the match the other day, I was very frustrated, and so I thought I'd take it upon myself to find ways to calm myself down. One of those ways is to do some deep breathing. On top of that, I thought it might be a good idea to fill up on these positively sweet goodies, and Philip Jorgensen. Philip, your positively sweet goodies. PSG. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Blues and Stripes. So we got a few things to talk about today. Obviously the Newcastle match tomorrow, but before we get to that, there are a couple things that I did want to discuss. Some of it relating to the PSG match, because I do realize that in my frustration, I didn't really go into a lot of depth about why I was so frustrated with certain things, but I'll get to that in a minute, because the first thing to talk about is kind of the bombshell that's been dropped. If you haven't heard about it yet, it has been going all around social media, but a group of fans apparently went and talked to a director of the club and was essentially put off by a lot of what was said. The director apparently came off very condescending, basically told them that they're idiots for not trusting the process. And there was a lot of stuff said that people were digging into and criticizing and all of this, and I did want to give my own thoughts on it, because there is a lot of divide at the club at the moment. There are people who feel like that we can't move forward until we just get rid of the owners, get rid of the board, get rid of the sporting directors, basically everybody that's in the back rooms of this club. Just need to remove them before we can have any success at all. And then there are some closer to me which have their issues with the board, but realize that things are not as bad as some of the anti-Blueco people are making it seem. And so that's where I kind of want to come at this, because as I've said before, I do have my issues. I think the transfer strategy is still stupid, and I will stand by that until we do manage to sign at least one, just give me one experienced center back. That's all I feel like we need player-wise. And then manager-wise, I do think they've been pretty poor in picking that as well. The jury's still out on Rosenior for me. That's something I'll discuss in a little bit. But here's the thing. Looking at this piece of information that was given yesterday, I feel like I want to take it with a grain of salt. Because as much as people want to say that there are paid PR people from the club that want to dangle the carrot in front of fans and be like, oh, look, be excited about this, and then yank it away because there's not really anything there. As much as people want to claim that's what the club is doing, that's also what other journalists are doing to rile up controversy surrounding the club. It's like the people in America that think that the media is bought out by one side or the other when it comes to politicians. There are both sides. There's media that shills for both sides of the aisle because they know if they stir up controversy on either side, it gets clicks, it gets views, it gets people talking. That's kind of the mindset I'm approaching this with, because first of all, we don't know that it for sure happened. If it did, we don't know for sure that they're telling the whole truth about it. We don't even know which director they talked to. They said they talked to a director. So they talked to one of the sporting directors? Did they talk to one of the higher up directors? Did they talk to maybe the director that communicates with fans? Because if so, maybe that guy just needs to be removed from his job because he's not doing a good job of being that intermediary between the board and the fans. And maybe a lot of what he said to this fan group doesn't actually reflect how the board feels. There's also reports that apparently this director was meeting with Matisse. We've not heard anything from him about this. So there's a lot of questions here surrounding what has actually been said and what is the truth behind all of this. And so that's why, for me, I'm not going to jump on this bandwagon of everything that was said here by this fan group, everything that was put out, that it's 100% factual without any proof. And I do think something else that kind of goes in the board's favor is the other piece of information that came out this morning, which is Reece James just signed a new long-term contract. First of all, that's great for the club. We need Reece James here. We need him to stick around. And there was a lot of talk about whether or not he was going to stay because his contract, I think, was going to be up next summer. People were asking questions. Is he going to sign on? Are they going to try to move him on for pure profit? Blah, 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 all of this. And now they signed him on for a 6-year contract. First of all, that screams confidence from Reece in what's going on here in the project that they're building, but also it shows that they are trying to do some of the things that the fans want. Maybe not everything. Again, there are a lot of things that I wish they would do that they're not doing, and it frustrates me, but I do feel like we need to get rid of this idea that Blueco is just wholly bad, because there are a lot of us that do see the problems, and I think it just goes to show that anybody that's not going to scream Blueco out to the heavens is being attacked as a Blueco supporter, is being attacked for being an enabler. Like, that just kind of shows that it's kind of building this us versus them mentality that we don't need as a fan base. We don't need to be attacking each other because of our different opinions. If you're somebody that wants Blue Co out, I'm not going to say that you're 100% wrong. I disagree, but I've seen several comments in other people's videos and my own videos where if you defend the board at all, or if you don't scream that the board are total idiots and don't have any clue what they're doing and refuse to criticize every single move that they make, refuse to say that Rosenior isn't worthy of being at the club, it's almost like you're being treated like an ignorant idiot who's just buying into all of the BS that Blue Co's putting out, sipping the Kool-Aid, like, oh, everything's fine here. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset to have. So that's kind of my personal opinion on this whole situation. Like I said, I'm not saying this fan group is lying. I'm not saying they're telling the truth. I just think we need to take each piece of information that we get, whether it's PR from the owners or PR against the owners. We need to take each bit of information with a grain of salt. I think two great examples of this, first of all, was all of the talk about us going after Magnan. I think we can all see now that that was not actually going to happen. I mean, if the club really looked at 20 million and said, that's too much for a keeper that plays the AC Milan, I feel like that would be really stupid. So clearly that was just put out there to give everybody hope, like, oh, we are going after experienced players, when in reality they were never going to deviate from their transfer strategy. Which again, I am still frustrated with. But on the flip side of it, we saw what happened with James and Neto being left out against Arsenal in the second leg. Some Athletic reporter says that it's because they're being rested, and so many anti-Blue Co people jumped on that and said, oh, see, Rosenior's just a yes man. He's just here to do whatever the medical staff tell him to do. He's not actually doing anything. And it turns out they had a knock. And James, his knock actually kept him out for the next few matches. So those are my 2 cents on it. Obviously, if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. In fact, I do feel like a lot of these anti-Blue Co people, they do tend to let me know in the comments most of the time. But let's take a quick look back on the game that sparked a lot of the hatred again. Because I do think the Villa match quieted a lot of the discourse. The Wrexham match did spark a little bit because it was a frustrating performance. But the PSG match definitely brought back a lot of the vitriol that's been thrown at Rosenior, saying he's not good enough as a manager. Several fans calling for him to be sacked because of this performance. And I said in my review that it pushed me closer to that idea that I don't want to see him anymore. And to expand upon that a little bit and explain my reasoning for that, it's because so far Rosenior has shown that he can be adaptable, which is something Maresca didn't ever show me. He never showed a willingness to change from what he wanted to play, the way he wanted to play. The only time that we saw that was last season after the Ipswich match, when we saw trying to pass out of the back, nearly led to a goal, and then Sanchez goes long on a goal kick, we get scored on it, and basically Maresca comes out and blames the fans, saying that, see, this is why we play short, because we got scored on. And then the funny thing was we stopped playing short with Sanchez for the rest of the season, and it worked out well. But that's about the only time that Maresca changed anything from what he wanted to do. With Rosenior, it's clear he wanted to come in with a similar style, but with the keeper being a lot more of like a sweeper keeper. Like we've seen where Penders has played, we saw where Jorgensen played the last 2 matches he was in, and we even saw where Sanchez was attempting to play from in the first leg of the Arsenal Carabao Cup match and the Arsenal Premier League match and the Wrexham match. Rosenior does want his keepers to step out more, but this is where my problem with it is we've seen Sanchez can't do that, but he's a very good keeper. But if you try to get him to play this way, where he is a little bit more of a sweeper keeper, he's not comfortable with that, and he looks shaky whenever he's trying to step out a bit more. And so Rosenior goes, well, you know what? I want to play that way. Despite the fact that I don't think he has the keepers available to him to play this way, he's trying to force it. He's tried to force Sanchez 3 times now to play this way, and Sanchez looks shaky because of it. And then he's tried to force Jorgensen into the team. In one match, it worked, kind of, because I don't think he was that great against Villa, but we still managed to win. And then against PSG, we get embarrassed. And ironically, it comes the day after Tottenham tried to do the same thing, tried to force a young keeper to play in a big match because, oh, well, he's better with his feet. And that's where I do feel frustration with Rosenior right now, because he's gone from this adaptable coach that's not like Maresca, that's willing to change his tactics, that isn't going to try to force these players that are not capable of playing his style to play his style. And granted, there are some players that do fit into this. I think Enzo's looked a lot better since Rosenior's come in. I think João Pedro's looked a lot better. I think we've seen Santos and Hato really start to flourish in this system, as well as getting time. So there are players that have benefited from Rosenior's style and the way he wants to play, but clearly we don't have the keepers available to us to play with that keeper in mind, to use him as another defender, to use him for his feet, to pass short. We don't have that, because either you're going to play a keeper who's very good at shot stopping, but can't play short, and so he's going to be liable to give it away, or you're going to have a keeper that's inexperienced and can't make saves. And so that's where I do understand the frustration with Rosenior, because it's not just been the PSG match, it's been the last few. He forced Jorgensen in the Villa match. Again, it worked, thankfully, but you're dropping your best keeper, who's been really good all season, but you're forcing him to play a way that he's not comfortable with, and it's making him look worse because of it, and then you turn to your inexperienced keeper to try to play the style you want to play. That's not confidence inspiring as a manager. That tells me you trust more in your system than you do the players that you have. And that's what I feel like Maresca's biggest problem was. He was so trusting in his system that he just thought, we'll get there. We're going to play this way. In fact, we've already heard, I think it was Fofana came out, or may have been James. We've already heard them come out and say, this is the style we want to play, so we're going to give up possession sometimes. That's part of it. We heard that from Maresca as well. That's not okay. We shouldn't be okay with giving up possession in the back, because that's dangerous. So for Rosenior, if this is how he's going to continue on, then my faith in him is gone. I was really hopeful because, again, I thought he was willing to give up on this style until he gets the players he needs to play this way. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of passing out from the back anyway. I'm not a fan of using our keeper in the build-up play. So I'd kind of prefer that we don't play that way, but if we're going to, at least get a keeper who's capable of being a keeper as well as comfortable playing with his feet. Get somebody in who's got the experience to be able to play with his feet and not feel uncomfortable, not be put under pressure, and potentially give up goals because of the nervousness like Jorgensen did. So we'll see what Rosenior does for the rest of the season, but I am worried that he's going to stick to his guns because I haven't heard a whole lot of him coming out after the match and going like, my bad, we won't try to play this way anymore. I was hoping we could get the players on board with this, but maybe we'll just save that for next season. I've not heard anything like that. What I've heard is, again, similar to what we heard under Maresca, which is we want to play this way and we might give up possession. That's part of us trying to play this way. So we'll see, but with all that being said, we can look ahead to tomorrow's match against Newcastle. It's going to be at home, which is going to be good for us. I'm pretty sure we drew the first match against them this season 2-2. So coming into this one, it's kind of a weird feeling because they're not in the best run of form at the moment. I do think they'll probably be a bit tired because they just had a tough match against Barcelona. They are much more in their tie than we are, to be perfectly honest, even though they're going away to Barcelona next midweek. So I don't really know what to expect from them, but from us, I expect us to put in a good performance, put out a good team. I don't want to see much rotation, if any. I know it's going to be tough, considering we've got a tough second leg coming up where we're going to have to be at our best. But this is also the chance for Rosenior to make amends for what he's done. Make amends for the awful lineup that he put out against Wrexham and the subs that he put in that made that game a lot tougher than it should have been. And then also make amends for trying to implement this system that we're not ready for, we're not capable of playing at the moment, with a keeper who's inexperienced and liable to give away goals, and basically throwing away our chances of progressing to the next round of the Champions League. So to go through the lineup, first of all, should be Sanchez in goal. Other than the performance, I think the fact that Jorgensen also just went down the tunnel, even though James was telling him, go clap the fans, I think that was a very bad look for him, and I do think that probably ends his chances of starting again. If he does, it's going to be really close to Rosenior out for me. I don't want to be one of those fans that's screaming that so early, because I do like to give him some time. I do like to give managers time to prove themselves. I don't think I was Maresca out until like February last year, maybe. So it's still early days for him, but to be so ignorant that after that terrible performance, plus his reaction at the end of the match, can't say that I would trust Rosenior after that if he played Jorgensen here again. So it's got to be Sanchez, and I think you just have to forego this style of using your keeper as an option for feet. I think we just need to stop doing that, let Sanchez do what he does well, which is make saves to keep us in the game, and his long balls too. Like, that's something we can rely on him for, because he does tend to put good long balls over the top if there is space in behind, which is something else we could have exploited against PSG. But anyways, getting into the defense, it should be Reece James at right back. I think we saw in the last match our defense fell apart without him back there. I know he's solid in the midfield, but I think he's much better at right back. Outside of the fact that that's his more comfortable position, I think also the leadership that he can bring back there. I would like to see him start organizing our back line a little bit more because we are so all over the place at times. But more than anything, just having him back there behind the team, I think is a good feeling for everybody. And he's been playing well whenever he's been at right back. So I think it would be great to have him back there. I would also go with Chalobah and Sarr in the center. I think Fofana had a very bad game against PSG. Once again, showed a lot of his frailties. So I think this is a good game to give Sarr some minutes, see if he's capable of playing in the Premier League, because he's shown some quality so far. And Chalobah, he's just Mr. Consistent. So I think that partnership would be a good one to build on. At left back, honestly, could be Cucurella, but wouldn't mind seeing Hato start. I think he's been very good since Rosenior's come in and given him some time. And it would give Cucurella a chance to get a break since he is still returning from injury and he's got another tough test ahead of him on Tuesday. So honestly, I think I would probably go with Hato for this match. I think that back four would be very solid and would hopefully keep Cucurella fresh for the next leg against PSG. I'd probably expect to see James substituted as well to give him a break so he's fully fit for Tuesday as well. Into the midfield, I'd go with Caicedo and Santos. They've been a very good partnership in there, and honestly, I think it needs to return because I feel like ever since Lavia has come back, we've not seen that partnership as much. So I think we need to go back to those two. They hold down the midfield very well, and honestly, I'd kind of like to see him start on Tuesday, but we'll get to that. And then going forward, I'd like to see a front four of Neto on the right, Palmer in the center, Garnacho on the left, and João Pedro up top. Garnacho, I'm not fully convinced by him still. I'm kind of saying this through gritted teeth, but I think he needs to start so that Enzo can get a break for Tuesday, because I do think he's going to be key in the second leg. Not only did he get himself a goal, I'm pretty sure he's the one that got the assist for Gusto's goal as well. So I think he's going to be very effective in that match. So giving him a break here, I think would be a huge boost for him. And I think this front four is still very capable. I think Neto, he showed a bit of quality on Wednesday, not phenomenal, but had a couple of moments. Garnacho, he's had a couple of moments this season, so maybe this is another chance for him to step up again. And then Palmer and Pedro, I think, are really solid. I think both of them would draw the attention to them, which would open up spaces for the likes of Garnacho and Neto to possibly create something. So that's the lineup I would like to see. I don't expect to see it, to be honest. I think there probably will be a bit more rotation than that. Honestly, as much as it pains me to say, I would not be surprised to see Delap. I might throw up in my mouth a little bit when I see that, but kind of expected. And if you're going to play Delap, I would say at least start João Pedro alongside him. I think that was something that would have maybe been effective in the match against PSG. Is when you bring Delap on, don't bring João Pedro off. Let them play alongside each other. Because yeah, João Pedro was getting marked out of the match for a lot of it, but he was still drawing those defenders to him. So if he's doing that, that opens up space for Delap to get into. And he's not the most quality player on the ball, but he has gotten some good assists this season. So give him the ball and see if he can get it to Garnacho or get it to João Pedro and set up a chance. So that would be the only way I'd be okay with Delap starting this one, is if João Pedro was alongside him up top. We kind of went with like a 4-4-2. But anyways, as far as my expectations for this match, I expect it to be a win. If we don't get the win, there's going to be a lot more questions. Not just from anti-Blueco and the doom and gloomers that we're seeing in the fan base right now. I'm going to have questions. And honestly, I think a lot of people that are the more positive thinking, which not that we're happy-go-lucky and think everything's fine, but the ones that do have hope that we can see out the rest of the season, get Champions League for next year, and maybe even walk away with like the FA Cup. Fans like me are going to start having questions if we don't get the win here. And especially the way Newcastle have been playing recently, it would be a huge disappointment if we didn't pick up all 3 points. So hopefully we can do it. Hopefully it can be comfortable as well. So that way we can rest players like James and Palmer and Pedro for Tuesday. But those are all of my thoughts. So with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more Chelsea previews, reviews, and talks. Also, let me know what your thoughts are down below, whether you agree, disagree, or just want to call me stupid. Let me know, we can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Also, if you want to hear me talk about TV shows and movies that I like, check out my channel Mason the Brock Henderson, where I upload reviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As well as if you want to watch me play through video games and try to make it entertaining for you, I have a Let's Play channel, Meso Hendo Plays, where I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also, if you do want to help me grow this channel, I do have a Patreon where all the funds and donations will go directly into improving this channel's quality. But I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out, and up the Chels.